Hello, this is David Kozik, Chief Spiritual Officer of the LoveMakers Foundation, a hybrid spiritual organization whose purpose is to bring love to the world and love to each and every individual on the planet. Big job. But today, besides me, is our CEO, Deborah Kozik. Say hi, Deborah.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here for another wonderful love message.
Yeah, and that's good. And Deborah will be sharing, make a very important sharing moment later on in this love message, which is titled Love, Surrender to Love. It's a big topic, and it sort of goes back to what we discussed last week when we talked about finding and connecting the presence of God to the presence of your highest self. To surrender doesn't mean giving up yourself. It doesn't mean that. It really means letting go, releasing your ego, releasing your willpower, surrendering and finding the quietude within. If I put my fist up and I try and keep it closed and clenched for a long time, how long can I do that? Well, that's willpower. You have to let it go. Because love and finding that love and surrendering to love, surrendering to your highest self, surrendering to God, it has nothing to do with another person. Because love is truth, love is beauty, love is self. To know yourself, to surrender to the truth of yourself, is to surrender to love. Those are the beautiful words of Ganji. And in Eastern religion, there is that surrender, that connectivity, but it also happens in Western mysticism with the saints. But the key is the connectivity. It took Jesus 40 days and 40 nights to surrender to love in his highest self. It took Buddha a few years to surrender and just let it go, because what you have to do is let it go. When you surrender, you're really just giving up willpower, eliminating ego, and essentially discovering yourself. It is said the art of surrendering comes from a deep place of love. It comes from a deep trust in your deepest heartfelt consciousness. Maharshi, the Ramana Maharshi, really the spiritual thinker in India, said, find the I. Let it go. Ask, who am I? And then release and let it go. That's what you have to do. You have to give up your ego, your desire. Because you can't find your highest self if you're thinking. You can't find it if you're emotional. You even have to go beyond your intuition and connect to your highest self. Marianne Williamson wrote, the moment of surrender is not when life is over, it's when life begins. At some point, we're all going to surrender. You can wait until a moment before you pass away, before you die. But the sooner you surrender, the sooner you'll find your highest self. The sooner you'll find the kingdom of heaven within, the sooner you'll find God. So let it go and let the God within you, let the love within, the absolute love within your heart lead the way. I think that I've always been a person that, you want to do well, you're competitive, you want to excel, but at some point I had to surrender. And I think that was one of the, if God has plans for somebody, that is, the plan God had for me, to surrender, to love, to go to my highest self, to connect with God, to transform. And you can do it too. So Deborah, why don't you tell them a little bit about surrender and about how it's acted in your life?
Oh, well, as you were talking, it reminded me that surrender is a practice. And as you're talking about Jesus and Gandhi, this became a practice for them. So a practice that I do every day in allowing myself to be able to respond with love. And I personally call it absolute love, because it comes from a deep place that's absolute. Only the moment is absolute. So when I wake up in the morning, I've already lovingly released everything from the day before. I'm not anticipating tomorrow. This is a practice that has really helped me to become free. So I lovingly release others, including myself, to their own lessons. And that's one of the practices that I do. And so when I wake up in the morning, I surrender to the new day, to the breath that I have been given to enjoy a new day, to the day itself. And so then I'm now surrendering to what's absolute. It's present. It's the gift of being present. So that's how I practice surrendering to love, and I invite others to practice whatever it is for you to be in a space where you just are able to be present.
Yeah, when was there a time in your life where you just had to surrender everything and let it go, and to trust your intuition, to trust God, to trust your highest self?
There's been several times, but most recently, because of a lot of things that have been coming up, it's like, okay, I kept going to the what ifs and the should haves and could haves, and it was very overwhelming for me. And when we're preaching and practicing and teaching the commitment of living in love, I'm like, okay, so I had to ask that question: what is it that you're wanting me to know through all these lessons that I'm learning? And the lesson that I was given was to surrender to the new day. And this was something that actually came to me just about a week ago, and how to just wake up and surrender to that day, that breath, that moment.
And really, it's surrendering again to your highest self, releasing ego, clearing the deck so that you can let the flow of God energy, of your highest self energy, come into you and emanate and penetrate and permeate every cell in your body, so that you can emanate it, resonate it, and live in love each and every moment of your lives. And when Deborah says absolute love, she means it. We're talking about absolute love. That would be God. That would be your highest self. That's infinite. It's personal and impersonal. It's immanent and transcendent.
It's the kind of love
Let it
that,
in.
Yeah, it's a love that nobody can take away from
Let
you.
it in. In athletics, and I know there's a famous writer, Szymczyk, I believe. If I butchered that, I apologize. But he talked about flow.
Yes.
When you become love, you live in love's flow each and every moment of your life. But when you have a flow that Szymczyk talked about, basically you're letting it go and you're performing at your highest self, because there's nothing holding you back. There's no ego, there's no fear, there's nothing, there's no negative emotion. You're just doing. And as Deborah pointed out, just being in the moment.
You're staying
That's the
present
key.
in the moment.
But I want to point out, when you're in the moment, be in the moment with infinite love. Be in the moment knowing that your potential is infinite, that life is infinite, that love is infinite, and is all there is.
Yeah, and that's the gift.
Dear God, thank you for this moment, to experience the release, letting go, and surrender of negative energy, of ego, of expectations, and letting the power of love, the beauty of love, the infiniteness and grace of love enter into me each and every moment of my life now. As I become aware and release myself and my consciousness to my highest self, I know that grace is here already. And I'm aware of this magnificent, infinite grace and love that is my purpose, that is my destiny, that is my life now. So it is so. Amen.
Amen.
So we just want to say we love you. I love you. And live in the present. Experience the power of God in your highest self now.
And I love you, and we love you. So we invite you to like, share, and subscribe to our love messages every week, and do share your favorites to help us bring more love to the world.
Deborah, I love your story today. You are a loving being, and really the key inspiration for LoveMakers Foundation, because you are love. But remember
that we believe
love is the way.
Love is the way.